So-called gun research. So there are people who are really enraged and angry about all of the series and rash of shootings. Do your research on so-called gun facts before you speak. And so I noticed that when these incidents happen, and I'm just going to say this here, when these happen in neighborhoods or places where it happens to a certain group of individuals, if it isn't like in a place like Chicago, or if it's not in like a neighborhood that's, has a history of gun violence, or what they would label or call as a poor community or ghettos, we see this people that have come from out of neighborhoods that where killing, shooting, people getting maimed, getting their life snuffed out. It's so regular and so common, but it never makes the news. But when it happens to people in a neighborhood or in a place where you wouldn't think it should happen, then we have people that are all in an uproar. There's no uproar and there's no cry out in communities that see this regularly. And so this article here is in Yahoo, and it's basically saying, do your research on so-called gun facts before you speak. And it's coming from St. Louis Post-Dispatch. And so people may have a lot of reason to be upset, and they do. But what they fail to realize is these situations have happened many times before. It depends on where it happens and who it's happening to, that it makes the news. So for those of you who believe that the NRA's position that more guns make us safer and support an unrestricted Second Amendment, please present the evidence, is what they're saying, backed with verifiable facts. So who usually will always ask for statistics and facts? A lot of times it's people that are coming from neighborhoods or places where they don't normally see a rash of gun violence. They're in a safe environment or a safe haven. They've moved away from places where they don't have to be succumb to the poor community and the things that happen in Chicago. But this is happening in a school to innocent children. Well, there are innocent children that have seen this type of violence. They may not necessarily be in a school, but there are other children that are in other communities that see this same, maybe worse type of violence. And it doesn't make the news. More often, it never makes the news. So Santa Fe High School student Dakota Schrader is comforted by her mother, Susan Davidson, following the shooting at the school on Friday, May 18, 2018 in Santa Fe, Texas. Schrader said her friend was shot in the incident. And so that's what's pictured above here in the photo. It's showing a mother holding her daughter after a horrible incident. For those of you, as it said, who believe the NRA's position that more guns make people safer and support the unrestricted Second Amendment, please present the evidence backed with verifiable facts. That leads you to this position. I've searched a lot. All I can find are rare anecdotes where a good guy with a gun saved the day. That happens about 1.6% of the time. That is a terrible ratio, of course, on which to base that policy. The other for the intended purpose of self-defense. Much more typical is a friend who shoots another, a husband who kills his wife, a homicide with a stolen gun, or most common of all, at 66%. New York Times Gun Violence Archives, February 15. I'm not advocating for all guns to be taken away, but I am advocating that we educate ourselves and look at the evidence. Then ask yourself, are you safer with guns? That's the question. We have sacrificed too many people on the bloody altar of the NRA. Please don't believe their lies. Catherine Garner. And so this is the reason why you have people that are back and forth on the issue. They make a very good point. But if you add in all of the cities and the towns where gun violence is supposed to be the norm, and there are mothers that are doing the same things to their children, such as what's pictured here, but the mother is not white and the kids are not white. The mother is black and the kids are black. There are neighborhoods where there's a rash of killings. They may be communities where it's Black and Latino. And there's been a lot of complaints. There's been a lot of questions as to why we can't get the guns out of our neighborhoods. But is anybody hearing that? No. It almost never makes the news. In fact, hardly does it ever make the news until the damage is done. And the only thing they look for is to blame the people who live in those neighborhoods, who live amongst those situations, and put it on them as being the problem. They don't even look at the NRA as being an issue. They always look at the people in the neighborhood. And so with this situation here, it's in schools, and it's in a place where you have people who wouldn't expect it to happen there, and they blame the NRA, which the NRA is a really big entity. And what was the whole thing created for to begin with is the questions we should ask. Why did they even need guns? And who is the one that started the guns? Well, there's a lot of questions, a lot of unanswered answers to these questions. Give your thoughts, your feedback on what you think about things like this, because there's a lot of different scenarios. There's some places right now where killing is just something that happens second nature in some neighborhoods, but you don't see that outpour from people on the outside that see there's a serious problem. Instead of blaming the people, they want to get to the root cause of where this is coming from. You know, people want to put out statistics and facts, but look at some of these neighborhoods where people aren't putting the guns on the street. The guns somehow are sold online. There's ghost guns. There are people that are promoting the guns that are in law enforcement. They want to trade guns. There's different things that are happening, and it happens to somehow filter down and get into the hands of the wrong individuals. And so, two, even if they put more stricter laws out for guns, who is really buying these guns and can afford to buy these guns out of these shops that are, you know, they have a scope on the end of it. They have all this fancy schmancy stuff on it. You know, who can afford that? And what kind of people would want guns like that? Those are some other questions. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for listening.